everyone, I'm Clay Caldwell with the TDOT Safety Team. We'd like to take a moment and share about some of our employees who have demonstrated the ultimate level of service, saving someone's life. TDOT has a formal program for recognizing those employees who have performed an act of meritorious service in the line of duty, and several of our help team members were recently honored with this award. On Friday, September 27th, 2024, Region 1 Help Supervisor David Wortham was on scene on I-40 in the Pigeon River Gorge near the Tennessee-North Carolina border in the immediate aftermath of extreme flooding associated with Hurricane Helene. Mr. Wortham was made aware that the roadway was failing in North Carolina and quickly closed the interstate to eastbound traffic. Mr. Wortham made his way into North Carolina, where hundreds of cars and commercial vehicles had become trapped behind a washed-out section of roadway. He coordinated with arriving officials from North Carolina DOT and began the safe and efficient evacuation of all passenger vehicles. Mr. Wortham assisted with the removal of a section of barrier wall and facilitated the evacuation of approximately 50 tractor trailers from the impacted area as the roadway was crumbling. All of this was done in less than 90 minutes. Mr. Wortham was able to verify that all vehicles and people were safely evacuated from the area and provided this information to senior staff and emergency management officials. Within 20 minutes after clearing the stuck vehicles, that section of I-40 collapsed into the river. David's efforts to evacuate the stuck traffic resulted in saving numerous lives, and he was recognized by NCDOT officials for his life-saving assistance following the incident. On December 7th, 2024, Help operator Mr. Darius Jones was dispatched to the Hernando de Soto I-40 bridge over the Mississippi River in Memphis. Upon his arrival, he observed an individual in distress on the riverside edge of the bridge who appeared to be planning to jump into the river. Mr. Jones calmly engaged with the distressed person and waited for the Memphis Police Department to arrive. Once the police were on scene, Mr. Jones assisted them with pulling the individual to safety. His actions helped prevent an unthinkable outcome. On January 9th, while patrolling I-240 in Memphis, TDOT Region 4 help operator Dwayne Smith spotted a vehicle on the shoulder and pulled in behind to investigate. Dwayne quickly realized something was very wrong with the driver, as she couldn't remember where or who she was. He called for his supervisor, Timothy Renfro, who arrived shortly thereafter, and the two of them rendered aid to the distressed lady until the arrival of emergency medical responders. It was determined that she had suffered a stroke and that their actions prevented her from causing further harm to herself and others. On April 10th in Chattanooga on I-24 at the Spring Creek Road Bridge, Region 2 help operator Jimmy Woody stopped with a Chattanooga police unit on the left shoulder that was responding to a damaged vehicle. The driver had entered a work zone, striking a contractor's truck and narrowly missing several workers. The officer relayed to Jimmy that he suspected the driver overdosed and had administered 1 dose of Narcan. Jimmy observed the driver unconscious, unresponsive, and slumped over. Jimmy requested permission to further assess the driver, at which time he lifted his head back to manage his airway and initiated verbal and painful stimuli to the chest and facial area. Having no response, the officer administered a 2nd dose of Narcan. The Chattanooga Fire Department arrived on scene, and Jimmy assisted the paramedics by preparing the individual for CPR. The driver finally opened their eyes and after a few minutes was transported by EMS. On September 19th, Region 3 help operator George White was dispatched to a single vehicle crash on I-24 in Davidson County. Upon arrival, George found a non-English speaking gentleman on the phone with 911 trying to relay information. The man handed the phone to George and he relayed the information to the 911 dispatcher. George then discovered an unresponsive person in the vehicle that was involved in the accident. The doors were locked, so George had to break out a window to gain access. He found the man had no pulse and was not breathing. Acting quickly, George pulled the man from the vehicle and began CPR. A few minutes later, a nurse arrived on scene and administered Narcan to the individual. George and the nurse continued CPR until the ambulance arrived on scene and took over care of the patient. Later in the evening, while working another crash, the same EMS crew from the earlier crash arrived on scene. The crew confirmed to George that the individual he had performed CPR on had survived the ordeal. TDOT has developed a reputation for helping the public in a number of ways, and we're proud to have employees who are willing to respond in any situation. Have a safe week, and remember your 4.